Hi friends, welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I use the Hobonichi weeks for meal planning. And this is going to be a very functional plan with me where I'll take you through our process that I have refined over the last year. As someone who is completing a graduate degree, freelancing, and running a small business, things started to get really out of hand in terms of the amount of money we were spending on takeout, the amount of money we were spending on groceries because we weren't planning things properly and letting inspiration hit us when we were at the grocery store. And so we came to a point where we both wanted to be a bit smarter about meal planning. We tried a few different things, including having a set menu where we basically had the same things every day of the week, such as like pizza on Friday or stir-fried noodles on Mondays. But as someone who gets bored really easily, I needed a little more variety than that. But I also wanted to minimize the amount of decision fatigue that was coming up when we would decide what to make for dinner the day of, or the week before. Earlier in the year, I started out with printing out calendar pages, and I would do 3 months in advance. I actually saved all of the meal cards that we had collected from previous meal planning kits. And I went through them and we discarded the meals that we didn't like, and we kept a lot of the meals that we remembered really liking. And then what I would do is I would use these recipe cards and essentially take a look at the 4-person portions, because then we could use the leftovers for a second meal that week. And I would use the ingredients and the portions to plan out our grocery list. Over time, I haven't relied on these cards as much, and I don't follow these recipes exactly anymore, but I do really appreciate these cards because all of these meals are meals that can be cooked in 30 minutes or so, and I found that to be true, adding a little bit more time because I'm prepping the ingredients myself. That's kind of how I narrowed down the recipes that I was willing to cook during the week. So then what I would do is I would essentially fill out these, I would fill out my calendars, and then I would create shopping lists with all the food that we needed for the specific weeks, and I would separate out things like meat into one category because we would get that from, say, like our local butcher, and then I would separate out produce and get that from a certain place. And then if I needed, say, like special sauces that you could only get from like an Asian grocery store, then I would have a separate list for that. While I really appreciated having that overview, I liked the idea of consolidating everything into one book. So I have backdated a little bit, but I was finding that most of the planning was actually happening in the weeks, and so I don't really use the monthlies as much anymore. I'm mainly noting down the days that we go grocery shopping just so I can monitor that, because our grocery bills had been getting really high, and I really wanted to work towards getting groceries every 2 weeks instead of every weekend, from an efficiency standpoint, and also just trying to be smarter with our budget. In the back, in the My 100, I just put down all of the meals that we tend to really like, and so if I ever need inspiration, I know that I can go to this list, or I can just get my cards out and visually pick meals. And then of course I also have some meals that Mike and I just cook ourselves and we don't have meal cards for. And then in the notes pages, I've been kind of tracking our groceries just because I like paying attention to what we're spending and how different grocery stores price things. So it's been really interesting to see the differences in staple items that we buy, like milk and yogurt and different vegetables. And then also occasionally I will use the notes pages to add in recipes as well. Okay, that was a lot of backstory. Now I'm going to get into the actual planning. First, I'll take a quick look at how the last few weeks went. So as you can see, it's really not anything too fancy. I intentionally, this is purely like a functional planner for meals. I've started getting in the habit of planning just 2 weeks in advance, simply because 3 months, as great as it was, didn't allow for enough flexibility in terms of events that would come up that I would have to change things for. And so I find that 2 weeks is a pretty good span of time to plan and allow for some flexibility when things inevitably come up, but it's been working out really well for us. So I'll usually break out the notes pages into 2 sections. I'll usually just jot down some ideas, what I think would be good to make for the next few weeks. And I base this on what we have in the freezer and what we might have left over in the fridge. So for example, I know we have a lot of ground beef in our freezer. We have chicken, we have shrimp, and we have salmon. Here is the tentative plan. And also I should note that I only plan for dinners because Mike and I don't usually eat lunch together, and so he'll usually have his go-to things that he'll eat for lunch, and I will do the same. So on the side here, I'll double check my calendar, and I will add in any dates that may impact dinner plans. And so for example, I can see next week I have a group meeting at 6:30 on Wednesday. I have school pickup on Tuesday for my niece, and we have a tentative meeting on Monday. And then I'll do the same for the next week. So generally what I'll do is, I'll just copy down all of the meetings that I have that get close to that time that I would be cooking dinner. And that way I can plan what nights will be easier for me to cook and what nights will be easier for us to plan to have leftovers. Okay, judging by what I've got going on, the nights that I think I'll be able to cook are going to be Monday and Wednesday. So I'll plan to do cooking on Monday. I'll plan to have leftovers of some sort on Tuesday. And then I'll cook Wednesday, and typically we try to cook 2 meals and then have leftovers those other nights. Usually I'll cook 2 to 3 times, and then Mike will cook 1 to 2 times on the weekends, and that's kind of how we divide up our cooking duties. Now when it comes to planning out what I want to cook, that's when I used to get really overwhelmed with deciding what to cook. And now, when I get to this point, what I usually do is I'll either consult my little 100 list or I will just pull out my recipe cards and I will start here. And so, for example, this harissa roasted chicken is one of my favorite meals because I know how to make it so, like, I've made it so many times that I almost don't have to even reference this card anymore. And it's really easy and it's really delicious. So I'll probably be making this in the next couple of weeks. We have been having salmon. We've been having shrimp the past few weeks. And so I think I'm going to skip that for the next 2 weeks. So yeah, so we've got like a chicken meal. I really like this Swedish meatball meal, so I might add that. This is a possibility, a teriyaki bowl. This is another favorite. I think we've picked enough meals to work with. For next week, I think I'm gonna do this harissa chicken on Monday. And I already know that we have chicken in the freezer, so what we'll need to add is we'll need to get bulgur. I'll need to double check the spice blend. Baby spinach, lemon, we have garlic already, maybe yogurt, and tomato. Now that I know this recipe well enough, I don't really need to think too hard about the proportions because a lot of these things we would be buying anyway for other meals, but it's good to know that I need about a cup of bulgur, I need 2 tablespoons of this spice blend, and I like sometimes writing these things down to remind me that when we're at the grocery store, in case we don't have this at home, to go pick them up. So that's one meal. So Tuesday, I'm just gonna double check. So this coming Sunday, I have us down for pizza. So usually Mike will make some kind of meal on Sundays, and I'll usually ask him to make double the amount so that we can plan to have leftovers one of the days of this week. Try to keep it loose because you know, I don't want to overplan too much, and this is his day. So if he feels like making pizza, great. But maybe he'll decide he wants to make like a pasta meal, and that's great as long as there's leftovers. So for now, let's just assume he's making pizza. Knowing that Tuesday is going to be a really busy day, I'll probably just pencil in pizza for leftovers. Wednesday is a day I can cook, so that's when I'll make another meal. And I think I'm in the mood for these Hakka style meatballs. So I'll put that in, and what we need for this is green pepper, we need rice, which we have, green peas, chili garlic sauce, breadcrumbs, spice blend. So I use the same spice blend for both these recipes, soya sauce, ginger. Okay, so that's these 2 meals. And so what we'll end up doing for the rest of the week is we'll plan to have leftovers chicken from Monday, and then we'll have leftovers of the meatballs on Friday. Saturday, sometimes Mike cooks. Sometimes that's a takeout night, so I usually leave this open. And then Sunday, again, ideally something that Mike can do. So that's usually some kind of like a roast, pizza. In the summer, it would be steak, just anything like relatively easy that he can make. So I usually don't overplan Saturday and Sunday, or I'll ask Mike what he feels like making, and then we'll add that to the list when we go grocery shop. That is this week. Let's move on to the next week. The other cards I pulled out were teriyaki turkey bowls, Swedish meatballs, and beef bami style bowls. Given that we have beef and we have chicken, I think I'm gonna prioritize those again because the last few weeks we've had a lot of like salmon and shrimp, or maybe salmon. So actually what I'll probably do is instead of teriyaki turkey bowls, I'll probably do teriyaki salmon bowls. Also, I don't know if you can tell, but my pen is leaking because I did a poor job of cleaning it. So in case you're wondering what this giant ink spot is. It is my pen leaking all over my hand, but we're just gonna leave that for now. So for this week then, I'm gonna do teriyaki salmon. For this, I'll need bok choy, we need rice, which we have, but I'll put that down. Sweet peppers, carrots. We have sesame seeds, teriyaki sauce, hoisin sauce. And we have a lot of these other things like cornstarch and garlic. All right, so that will be the meal on Monday. And again, let's assume that Mike made something on Sunday that we can have leftovers for. So given that Tuesday is going to be a busy day because I'm helping out my sister for the next few weeks with pickup on Tuesdays, we're gonna do leftovers. And I'll just put Sunday. So whatever that is, we'll have leftovers. Wednesday, I do have something in the evening, but what I can do is I can cook on Wednesday, but it'll just have to be earlier and it'll have to be something that reheats relatively well. So I'm just gonna do like a stir fry noodles because that's something that I can cook earlier in the day and it reheats really well. I'll need to make sure, I mean, I know I already have noodles, but I would need to make sure that I have noodles. And I think I'll do that with chicken. So we have chicken, we'll need carrots, so I'll just put ×2. We'll have bok choy, I'll say ×2. Oh, mushrooms. I always add mushrooms to our meals. Actually gonna put mushrooms here as well, so we don't forget. And then Thursday I have a meeting until 5:30. Friday I have a meeting right around dinner time. So I will probably not be able to cook on these 2 nights, which is fine because actually I'm planning on cooking Mondays and Wednesdays and we'll do leftovers. So Thursday we'll do leftovers, teriyaki. Friday we'll do leftovers, noodles. Saturday we're gonna be out, so I'll just put NA. And then on Sunday, it'll be back over to Mike. So maybe I'll tentatively put in something like risotto. He makes a really good risotto. In fact, he makes a really good salmon risotto. So I might switch this up. And so since I think I would like to have him make like a mushroom and salmon risotto, I'm actually going to change this to, maybe I'll do this as beef. So teriyaki beef bowls. We'll do teriyaki beef bowls, whatever we have on Sunday, on Tuesday, stir-fried noodles with chicken. I'll say chicken and egg. So actually we need to make sure that we have eggs. And then teriyaki beef on Thursday, noodles Friday, out on Saturday, and then a risotto on Sunday. I think that's our plan for the next 2 weeks. And now we have our shopping list. And so what I usually do then is I'll double check some of these things on the list to make sure that we have enough at home. And if we don't, then we'll top it up on our shopping list. So I'll usually just bring this book with me so that I can double check everything and make sure that we have everything we need. And then the only other thing that isn't really encompassed here is anything additional that we'll buy for lunches. So for lunches, I'm much more boring. I tend to have almost the same thing Monday to Friday of that week. And so maybe I decide that I want to do salad. And so I would put something like salad greens and whatever I'd want to have there. And so same with Mike. He usually makes sandwiches for lunch. He'll go ahead and get whatever cheese he wants to put in his sandwiches. So that's kind of how we manage our lunches. And then, as I said, dinner we always have together. So I plan that. That is my planning process. Not very fancy, but I need it to be as simple as possible because this is the only way that we've been able to stay consistent with planning our meals and shopping with intention and just making sure that we're eating in more than we are eating out. And so of course I have other recipe books that I like to reference from time to time. You know, I have a couple of my favorites right here, but often I don't really have time to be cooking these recipes during the week, so I'll save them for special occasions or the weekends. And I guess the only other thing that I will add in is something that I find with planning in 2 weeks in advance is I can also plan Sundays to feed into following weeks. What I mean by that is sometimes I will ask Mike to make a giant batch of bolognese or meat sauce on a Sunday, and we'll have a meal related to that. But then I'll use that meat sauce and plan to make something like lasagna the following week. And I just find that that really helps cut down the amount of like cooking time that I need to spend the following week. And we can really stretch our efforts into multiple meals. So that's something that has been working really well for us. And then one final thing that we tried earlier in the year that worked out relatively well when I was trying to get in the habit of cooking frequently is I would plan to cook and we would not go out at all for like 3 out of 3 weeks straight. And then we would have 1 week where it was purely leftovers or takeout. And so we would freeze any leftovers that could be another meal. And then, yeah, we would almost sort of have like a complete rest week from cooking. And that was just what I needed at the time to give myself a break from feeling this pressure to cook consistently when it's something that we are really struggling with right now in our lives because we just have so much going on. I don't do this as often because I don't actually cook as often as I was. Like I think back in January and March, I was cooking like multiple times. Well, I think by April I figured it out, but I realized I was putting too much pressure on myself to cook like 3 to 4 times during the week so that I could like bank leftovers in the freezer and then have this, leftovers takeout week. So we actually I don't find that we need this anymore, but occasionally we do accumulate leftovers in our freezer. Sometimes we pick up like frozen pies from, the farmer's market or like frozen stuffed pasta as like backup meals. And it's good to know that we can also plan for a week like this where neither of us are going to take on the responsibility of cooking for ourselves. So that's just one strategy that we have applied in the past to help just make this process a little more enjoyable. It was kind of nice to look forward to having a week where neither of us had to do anything in the kitchen. So we did that for a while. And then I think eventually we stopped just because these takeout weeks were getting expensive, as you can imagine, and also it just didn't feel as necessary, especially over the summer when we were barbecuing a lot, and we just got into like a pretty good routine and habit of making really simple meals that did not take a lot of time. So anyway, that's my process. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below and I will do my best to answer you as soon as I can. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.